honestly, Anthem is sunsetting next year. This should probably sunset with it. You know what? This should be the opposite because it's vampires. This needs to walk into the sunlight. This needs to wake up bright and early, get its coffee, watch the sun come up, and just burn on the porch because god damn, it's bad. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CoinDrop podcast. This is episode 119, and I know some of you right off the bat might be a little confused by that. So I'm going to clear things up right now. Episode 118 did release. It came out only in audio form. So Chris was working on the edit for that. And long story short, basically he used a paid DaVinci Resolve key on the free DaVinci Resolve software. Why you can plug in your paid key into the free software when it doesn't unlock the paid software is a fucking mystery to me. But that's apparently something you can do, and it locked him out of a bunch of features that he needed to have in order to produce this, as well as gave him a whole bunch of errors when he tried to actually render to his PC. So he's dealing with their tech support to try and get that resolved. I don't know if his video version will ever come out, but the audio is available. It's been up on wherever you get your podcasts, anything like that. And I will, when I have time, hopefully next week, I will make an edit of that so that it can be on YouTube at the very least with maybe a visualizer EQ kind of thing. But that's kind of what's going on with 118. It is out, unfortunately, only in audio form. Beyond that, Zach is back with us. So Zach, how you been, man? It's been, I think last time we hung out was the Halloween episode, right?
It was the Halloween episode, yep. So a lot has happened in the last month, actually, for me.
Yeah? What you been up to?
So I found out, I think what's today? The 20th. I found out about 2 weeks ago, I got accepted for my master's program.
Hell yeah.
So,
congrats, buddy. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Going back to school next year.
Welcome back.
Engineering management. Hey, it's free. I might as well use it. Free's a word. It cost me like my knees and tinnitus and...
Free is a word. I don't know if it accurately describes what we went through to get it, but it is a word.
It is a word. But yeah, that's the big slice going on. Besides that, just wrapping up the end of the year.
Yep. Playing anything fun? Anything new?
We talked about it a couple months ago, I think a few episodes back, but sailing just came out on RuneScape, so that's been absorbing my life.
Nice.
I love boats.
Don't touch my boats.
Don't touch my RuneScape boats.
Don't touch my RuneScape boats. Well, I've got a few more things here, guys. We do have a Patreon side. I think we might have some new listeners. Zeverland, one of the topics we talked about last week. I've been in their Discord talking to some of the people. Some of them might be over here. This is your first episode of the CoinDrop podcast. Welcome. And we do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/CoinDropPod. Over there, we talk about extra content. You get the podcast a few days early in the audio form. And then you get the exclusive unlisted link to our Patreon side video content. So you get that the same day the video side comes out on Thursdays. The audio comes out Tuesdays for you guys. Extra content. We talk about a couple more topics over there, usually a minimum of 30 minutes. Plus we talk about upcoming games that are like next week. Like we're on the cutting edge for stuff. So you're always aware of what's right around the corner for you guys. So if you want to check that out, it's $3 a month over on patreon.com/CoinDropPod. That said, one more bit of housekeeping here, because I know the Halloween episode might have been a bit confusing. Chris constantly calls me Karth, and there's a reason for that. So, long story short, sometime next year, I'm going to be legally changing my name. My legal name is Rusty, and I have hated it my entire life. And it wasn't really until I started critically thinking about things and analyzing myself that I felt comfortable enough doing something like that, because it feels weird, right? Like, people don't change their first names unless, they've got a really good reason. It's not a common thing. So, long story short, Chris calls me Karth because legally sometime next year, that's what my name's going to be. It's going to be a fucking nightmare of a process, considering I have to go through the military stuff. I've got to go through school stuff. I've got to go, just a crap ton of effort. But I bring it up because I want to say that if there is something you don't like about you, you have the right to change it. I'm going to leave it at that. Not going to get any political or any deeper than that, but if you don't like something about yourself, you should be allowed to change it. You have control over your life, and I'm just going to leave it there. All right, let's talk about some games. So we have a ton of content actually tonight, and we're going to kind of get through these first two topics probably faster than you're going to want us to. But the reason for that is both of these first two topics have two incredibly well-made videos that I'll link that already exist, and there's a ton of content for them. But right off the bat, randomly, out of fucking nowhere, Valve came out and said, hey, we've got new hardware coming. A new controller inspired by the Steam Deck, a new Steam machine. For all you GameCube fans, it looks exactly like the old GameCube. It is, in fact, a cube. I've heard people calling it the GabeCube. So, and honestly, what I think is not getting enough press is their new Steam Frame, the standalone VR hardware. So we're going to focus on just the Steam machine and the Steam Frame. Like I said, these are going to be kind of short because a couple of people already made really great videos on these topics. First of all, if you haven't seen this, do you have Steam? Because how have you not seen that this is a thing and have Steam?
2025.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have Steam in 2025?
Yeah. Well, once this thing comes out next year, pretty much everybody's going to have Steam. So for those of you who don't know, this is a Linux built box. It's going to run Steam OS, which is the same software that the Steam Deck runs. And its specs are, I don't want to say underwhelming, because they're not in the world of consoles. In the world of consoles, this is a very, very good piece of kit. Personally, I don't know if it's something that I will buy. So running through this real quick, it's going to run Steam OS. It's going to run a custom AMD APU GPU kind of thing that is more or less, I think, if I remember the video correctly, Moore's Law is Dead does a phenomenal video, talks about all the tech, the potential price points, stuff like that. I'll have that linked for you guys because honestly, he just did an amazing job with it. I believe it's basically equivalent to a 6700 GPU, mobile GPU. So it's not an incredibly new GPU. In fact, I think at the time when the Steam machine releases, it'll be basically a 3-year-old GPU. It's also going to have two models, well, at least two models of storage hardware, 512 gigabytes or a 2 terabyte M.2 for both of them. So that's your storage plus expandable storage with micro SD slots. So you've got extra storage there as well. As far as RAM goes, it's got 16 gigabytes of DDR5 as well as 8 gigabytes of GDDR6. So not a huge amount of RAM, but again, we're talking about a console here, right? It is still a PC. You can actually, just like you can with the Steam Deck, you can access all the things on the internet. You can put mods on it for your Steam games. You can access, the Steam workshops, stuff like that. And I think this is a really perfectly timed move for Steam because we've been saying on this podcast for years that somebody needs to step in. Microsoft is stepping out of the hardware game. They've made that very clear that they are eventually going to stop making hardware. And it seems like Valve is going to be the next competitor to PlayStation because, again, going back to Moore's Law is Dead, his video, he talks about how this thing's going to perform almost as good as a base PS5, and based on his calculations, going to range somewhere between $300 to $600 at release, which is incredibly reasonable for this level of console. So, Zach, I've done a lot of talking. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no worries. So, it looks at a surface level like it can be a great contender for consoles. It has RAM that we see comparable in consoles. The VRAM is there. The storage looks expandable with a micro SD slot. The part I'm tripped up on is the Linux, which is great if you're somewhat like us. I like tinkering with computers. I think when it comes to consoles, though, a lot of people are of the mind, and this is pure opinion,
sure,
of the mind of they kind of give, I don't want to say mouth breather vibes, but I would rather ask someone on Reddit how to do something simple instead of Google because I don't know how to do anything sort of vibes. And I mean this in a good way. Consoles are great at doing what they do, which is playing games.
Yes.
If you just want to play games, you can buy a PlayStation or an Xbox. And you can hopefully, if the game developer did everything right, which is actually kind of becoming uncommon, the game should work when it comes out of the box. Put the game in or download the game now, and hey, look at that, I can play that game. With, as we know, on PCs, with a massive variation of hardware and that you can have on your rig, sometimes you have to do a little bit of troubleshooting on your video, your audio to get everything to mesh well. Consoles usually don't have that problem. And I think that the Steam machine, it's kind of bridging that gap between a built rig and a console. And I have a Steam Deck. I like the Steam Deck when I want to warm my hands. I just turn on Satisfactory, and it gives you that scene from Men in Black where he burns his fingertips off. It's the same.
Yep.
It's great, but it's also finicky. It doesn't perform exactly out of the box that you expect it to. It says Satisfactory is Steam Deck compatible, and let me tell you, sometimes even my PC bogs down playing Satisfactory. The Steam Deck turns into a nuclear reactor.
You're
like,
know.
Okay, yeah. It's like, yeah, you say it's compatible as in you can launch the start menu, and if you try to do anything, if you're above a base factory in Satisfactory, the Steam Deck's battery is instantly gone.
Yeah.
So I'm a little wary, because while the Steam Deck works great and it is cool if you just want to sit in your bed and play a game, it's not exactly what I wanted it to be. And at the face value, the Steam machine looks great, and I hope it does well. I think we need some contention in the consoles. I just hope it doesn't have that, well, you need to tinker with it, and good luck getting Linux to do what you want it to do properly. If you just want to play a game, why don't you just buy a regular console? And if you wanted to buy a rig, why don't you just buy a rig? But Gabe's always surprises us, so.
Yeah, I will say it's definitely blurring the line, right, between console and PC gamer. For me personally, I can tell you right now, I'm uninterested. I have a built rig. I have a 4070 GPU with DDR6 RAM with, all the bells and whistles right now. Just finished upgrading not too long ago. This is pointless to me because what I've already done is move my computer downstairs to the basement where my 75-inch TV is and connected it to that, and then ran cables through my walls up to where my office is. So my computer's not even below my desk. There's a USB hub, and that's it up here. So it's actually, I've already set up my system where I want it to be able to do couch gaming. So for me, this isn't a product for me. That being said, if you're running a system, because we all know tech prices have gotten out of control, RAM prices right now are astronomical, right? And GPUs have been for the last 7 years. So if you're running an older rig, if you're still running a GTX 1080 Ti, if you're still running DDR4 RAM, this might be a good option for you, because this will be an upgrade. It will be a solid upgrade too. And yes, Zach, you make some great points with Linux is kind of finicky. I feel like Steam Deck does a really good job at curbing a lot of the finicky nature of being a PC gamer, because generally the appeal of consoles is you get home, you boot it, and you play your games. You might have a software update for like firmware, you might have a game update for the game itself, but on the whole, they're closed ecosystems. You don't have to get into your driver settings for the PlayStation 5 and update your GPUs or update your BIOS or check your firmware. Like, that's not something you do on consoles. So it's interesting to see how they're bridging this. I feel like, looking at where we're at now, I feel like the Steam Deck was always a trial run for this. Like, it seems to me now, seeing where Steam's at, where Valve's at with their Steam machine, Steam Deck was the proof of concept to show that they could take an OS system like Linux and turn it into a platform for a console. That's where this seems to be going. So I'm hoping they have learned a lot in the, 3 years now that the Steam Deck has been out. I'm hoping that they've learned a lot from that release and what they've built, and they continue to update it and make it better. So I'm hoping that experience for the people that do buy the Steam machine will be really solid and perform at a level that it should as a console. And it helps that it looks cool too, right? Everybody loves cubes, so it's a big bonus.
The symmetry. And one parting thought on the Steam machine, and you kind of mentioned it, and I think this is where the worth is when you make your hardware with the criteria being good enough, you can easily source that hardware.
Yeah.
You know, we saw this with when the Series X and the PS5 came out. They were really chasing being the best. You know, we have the best hardware. Our RAM is better. Our VRAM is better. We shoved it into this console, but now you can't manufacture and supply that console easily. So I think based off of the specs of the Steam machine, of the hardware looking like, yeah, you know, maybe they could shove some much higher end equipment in there, but then we would lose, the cost would get exorbitant, and you're like, why didn't I just buy a PS5
or build a PC, right?
Or build a PC, right? So I think having that just good enough to play the game is going to be the main selling point.
I think Gabe and Valve learned their lesson the last time they made the Steam machine, because those things were like $1,200 at a time when GPUs were not crazy inflated. At the time, you looked at that and you went, well, why the fuck would I buy that when I can build a PC for the same, right? So I think they learned from it. And again, Moore's Law even said it feels like a scrapyard throw together rig. It's not bad parts. It's just slightly older stuff that does really well together to give you a good experience. Now, to be clear, and everybody I think is stressing this will not run new games 4K 60 FPS. It's not going to do that. That's not what this console is. This console will probably run 4K mid settings, but we're getting to a point with engines like UE5 that with their variable load, the what is it called? I can't remember their load terminology right now, but like the way they generate their polygons nowadays, it's almost impossible to tell the difference between medium and ultra settings unless you really are an elitist like Zach and I. But it's getting to a point where medium settings look really good. So this seems like a solid idea. I'm really happy to see Valve punching back, I guess, against where consoles are. Xbox raises their prices. Sony's getting to a point where, like you said, they're chasing the highest bar. And I'm hoping next generation they step back from that, because it feels like they were really trying to compete with PC this generation, and they're just not there. They're never there. You can't be there as a console. So Valve coming in with this, $300 to $600 for it, it's a very alluring price if you're looking for a new machine that, you know, your stuff's old. So, but moving on from that, what I do want to talk about is their new Steam Frame, their standalone headset, because I don't feel like that's getting enough press. First of all, this thing is insanely powerful for what it is. It is, according to LinusTechTips, who also made a fantastic video on the Steam Frame, we'll link that one as well. It's insane. It's better than the Index in some ways, which is kind of like the king of gaming. But it is capable of playing not only VR games, but non-VR games to it natively. So you can plug in a 6 gigahertz wireless Steam Link like USB, and you can wirelessly stream to your headset. So even if you don't want to play VR games, you can use this as a traveling monitor that will play your games at a resolution of 2160 by 2160, which, if I'm correct, is somewhere above 2K, between 2 and 3, I think, somewhere in there, with a refresh rate of about 72 to 144 hertz. The 144 is still experimental, probably causes a massive power draw, probably won't play your game very long. But just thinking about this, non-VR, right? Not playing a VR game. You want to travel, you're on a plane. Say you want to play, I don't know, God of fucking War on a 75-inch screen on a plane. You can do that with the Steam Frame. Theoretically. So it's got some crazy capability. Beyond that, PlayStation VR 2 released eye tracking, right? It was foliated rendering is what they called it, so that it reduced the rendering quality where your eyes weren't looking. And if you understand the human eye, you know that like outside of probably about the size of a quarter of where you're actually looking, you don't see a lot of fine details with your normal eye. So PlayStation took advantage of that, but they did it wrong. And Steam has done it, Valve has done it correctly. Sony created foliated rendering, which gave the power to the developers to take advantage of it. So the developers themselves of the VR games have to take advantage of the eye tracking to make it work in their games, to reduce the load, stuff like that. The Steam Frame uses foliated streaming. So they put it on the software side for the actual headset. So it actually converts any game that you're playing to do the same thing with its eye tracking, which is incredibly better because now you're not relying on the developers to take advantage of this technology, waiting for the next generation of VR games to come out. You want to play Half-Life Alyx in this thing? You can, first of all, and it's going to look fucking great because it's going to only render where your eyes are looking because of how it works. And I just, there's so much to say about this thing, from the fact that it's got pancake lenses that are crazy thin. They put the visual screen and the brain of the computer in front of your eyes, and then actually put the battery pack on the back. So it's more balanced than any other VR headset that's been out there. Not to mention, if you need to actually plug the thing in to run a wire to, wire it while you're playing, you're plugging it in the back of your head rather than in the front of your head, like the Quest or whatever, right? So just from the ground up, well thought out device. Zach, again, I've been talking for a minute. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, man? I'm sorry, I'm juiced for this thing. This is what I'm gonna buy.
Good. No, you're good. So I'm really intrigued by it too. I bought a Rift when it came out. I bought the Rift. I think it's the Rift S or Rift 2.
That was the one I had. Yeah, it was the Rift S.
Yep. I really want to like VR. I like VR. My big issue is, if you can see the Coke bottles I'm wearing, it is hard for me to play VR. My glasses are so thick. The Rift, one of the Rift's points was like, oh, you can wear your eyeglasses with this. I'm like, oh, awesome. My glasses are so thick that they were rubbing up against the lenses of my first Rift, and they actually etched the glass. And there's like, oh, you have to get spacers for it. And like, okay, well, you put the spacer on there. Now you're kind of expanding your VR view out. So it makes it like, oh, why don't you take your glasses off? Like, oh, because I'm blind. And they're like, oh, why do you wear contacts? I'm like, I guess I could wear contacts, but like, I don't like contacts. Sure. And if I had a choice, I'd rather just not play VR than wear contacts. So I hope that the frame, it looks amazing based off of the first glances that I've been reading about. So I hope there's some help for us lesser visually inclined people.
Good news is there will be. There won't be at launch as far as I know, but they are planning to set up so you can order prescription lenses. So you can actually have inserts into the VR headset that are your prescription. So that will be an accessory they do plan on adding. But yeah, that's a common complaint, right? Like my brother faced the same thing. I wear contacts all the time. I've worn contacts since I was like 16. So it's never really been an issue for me.
Yeah. Those prescription lenses, they'll have to balance the battery back in the back a little bit more to compensate for the weight of
you're gonna
this.
Be dragging that headset down with those Coke bottles.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of glass.
The field of view on this thing is roughly 110 degrees is what they're saying, which is pretty wide. That's a really good field of view. They said that, well, specifically Linus said when he was testing it, it wasn't the clearest, most beautiful screen he'd ever seen because they do use an LCD. They're not using OLED. My guess there is probably cost, right? It's probably cheaper, and they're trying to keep this, my guess is, competitive with the Meta Quest, since that's, their primary competitor. It's going to have a Snapdragon 8 CPU, 16 gigabytes of RAM. Again, two models at least, a 256 gigabyte with a 1 terabyte. Both versions are going to come with expandable storage, as is kind of their thing. And it's inside out tracking, which a lot of people who are hardcore VR gamers don't like. They like their base station and all this. Linus says this thing works phenomenally well. He tried his hardest to get it to stop tracking, to have it mess up. He said it worked really good. And, if I'm going to trust anybody, I'm going to trust him. On top of that, this will do the thing that no other VR inside out tracking has done. And it will see in pitch black because the cameras on the frame are also IR sensors. So they don't need any light. You could play this in a pitch black room, which takes horror VR games to a whole nother level. The controllers also look pretty bog standard. Honestly, they looked almost exactly like my Meta Quest 3 controllers, just slightly steamified. But they do still have the capability of tracking the 5 fingers with the way they've built the internals of it. And supposedly you can get 40 hours of life out of a single AA battery per controller, which is an insane amount of time considering my Meta Quest controllers die in like 10. So 40 hours is pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's the Steam frame. It honestly, like, the thing that gets me is it fucking straight up looks like the headset out of Ready Player One.
Right?
Like, it looks like
Right?
they're like, we're gonna model it
That's-
exactly off of Ready Player One. It looks exactly like it.
I was trying to place it this whole time. I was like, man, what does this look like? And I was kind of stuck on like cranial helmets for pilots. And I was like, it looks like a cranial, like the visor. Nope, Ready Player One.
Yeah,
that's what
I mean,
it is.
it's
Yeah.
right. It's literally like Gabe went like, we're making that. He just points at it. It's the moment when God, was it Obama that came out and said that we were making the Iron Man suit? He did like a press conference about it. He's like, we're making the Iron Man suit. It's the same thing, but Gabe is like, we're making the Ready Player One headset.
Yeah. Make the Ready Player One headset.
Yeah.
Do it.
I have no idea what the price is going to be on this. If they're competing with MetaQuest, my guess is probably in the line with the Steam Machine. It's going to be in the neighborhood of $300 to $500 would be my guess. But Steam has a way of surprising us. I mean, the deck came out cheaper than I thought it was going to come out, and then the OLED deck came out cheaper than I thought it was going to come out. So who knows? Either way, I am absolutely picking up a Steam frame. It looks incredible. It's not all great, but it is mostly good. Apparently, the audio system isn't the best because the initial speakers, I guess, from what Linus was saying, if I recall correctly, is that they don't aim directly towards your ears, so you get a little bit of an echo. It plays into the room more than, like, one thing that I love about my MetaQuest is the audio on it is so focused into your ears that even if you have it at max volume and somebody is standing right next to you, they can only just barely hear the incredibly loud music or game that you're playing. So they did really good on their audio. It sounds like the Steam frame, not quite as good, but hey, Bluetooth headphones, call it done, you know?
Yep. It'll be interesting. 2026 looks pretty promising for Steam. I mean, not that they need the that buffer of wealth. You know, Gabe needs another yacht, but
Yeah, no joke.
You know,
at this point, man, like in a world full of not so great CEOs and not so great rich people, I'd say Gabe is up there with like one of the good ones, you know? I don't know him personally, but it seems like his actual desire to make quality, good equipment. I mean, hardware manufacturing is new to them, and the Steam Deck was phenomenal. So,
yep.
No, I like the guy. He has a massive hate for Windows that I don't understand, but that goes back way before me because he worked at Windows. There is the potential to sideload Android actually onto the headset too. Theoretically, we'll be able to load Android APKs onto it.
That's interesting. That's insanely interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's very open in its potential. Honestly, what gets me too is just like game streaming to it. Even, like I said, non-VR games. If I wanted to play fucking Diablo 2 on a 70-inch monitor, I could just slap this bad boy on my head and fucking fire it up, right? So
we got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. It's got 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte, 2160 by 2160, 144 hertz. Like, what are you gonna use it for? Like, I'm gonna play RuneScape on it.
I'm gonna play Minecraft.
Yeah, right.
You want to know? Fuck, what was it, man? As soon as I got my 4070 and I put that in my computer, I think the first thing I booted was like, I think I booted Doom, the original Doom. I was just like, I'm gonna play some Doom. And Mike at the time was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, whenever built my PC, I went from a 5070 Ti to a 5080. It's a long story, but I got a 5080 and I was like, oh man, let's see what this bad boy can do. I think Wilds had just came out and everyone was complaining about the optimization, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we will talk about.
And I was like, oh, let me see what Wilds can do. And I was seeing like 90 FPS on Wilds with my 5080 at like max settings. And I was like, I feel like this could be better. I think I was actually playing Path of Exile 2. And you know, it gets crazy in there and it was just chugging. I had to put in like an FPS cap on there because it was getting insane. It's like my game would crash. It's like, oh, you know, your final FPS was 480. And I was like, oh my god.
A little extensive there. That's almost enough frames for Counter-Strike players. Counter-Strike players, almost. They're almost happy with that. Well, speaking of graphically intense games and stuff that's just gorgeous as hell, a couple episodes ago, Mike was with me, and we talked about the THQ Nordic Showcase, where Showstopper Fate Keeper was announced, and they just recently put out 8 minutes of gameplay footage. And god damn, does it seriously give some Dark Messiah vibes. I mean, great level of Dark Messiah vibes, and legitimate, right? There's another game we've talked about in the past, I think the episode 80 section, called Alcahest, which showed a questionable trailer that gave me a lot of the day before vibes. Fate Keeper gives me none of that, because they've shown actual gameplay now, and we've seen what the game looks like. We've seen combat, and some people I'm sure are gonna be like, oh, it looks like Skyrim. Nah, this is older than Skyrim, guys. This is hardcore Dark Messiah stuff. You've got like the kickpocalypse. You can straight up drop kick people. He does telekinesis at one point to grab a guy and throw him into a spike wall. I think one of the coolest things I saw was when he's fighting the big dude at the end of the gameplay trailer, he slashes him and you actually physically see the cuts where he hit the guy. So really cool attention to detail, gorgeously built game, and it's a small indie dev. This is a new team for Nordic THQ. I don't even think, let me double check this, but I think they're only publishing. I don't think they're the developers behind it. But what were your thoughts, Zach? What were some of the things you liked?
All right, so I'm a big fan of RPG games as well, as much as everything else. So I will live and die on the hill that Avowed is a good RPG. So I see when I watch the gameplay for Fate Keeper, I feel like it's a amalgamation, if that's the word.
Amalgamation.
Yeah, amalgamation. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you.
Tenuous grasp on English here. Of all the things that we like to see in RPGs. I see Avowed. I see all the good stuff in Elden Ring in there. I see the good parts of Skyrim. I see, and you mentioned like the kick. I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of playing Chivalry, which is not an RPG, but it is a melee fighting medieval game. And, you know, like the classic, hey, here's your 2-bar setup. Here's your 1 color bar that means your health, and here's your other color bar that means whatever you want to do, whether it be magic, stamina, of the like.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, it simplifies things. But then we also have the inventory system feels kind of like Elden Ring looking at it. And I like that inventory system. It works out well when you have a clear-cut definition of this goes in this inventory slot. The heaviness of the gameplay is, and I think this is what I actually really want to touch on, is what Avowed should have been. If you haven't played Avowed yet, it's a good game. It's a good RPG. I think Matt Mercer voices some stuff in there. So if you're a Matt Mercer fan, you'll be like, oh, hey, look,
of course
there
he
he
is.
is.
He's in everything.
Yeah, he's in everything. I liked it. I also immediately started the game on the hardest setting because I was like, yeah, why? It's an RPG. It's like Skyrim. You go in, you crank a difficulty all the way to the max, and you suffer.
Yep.
And the fights were difficult, and they almost felt heavy. Fate Keeper looks like it will feel heavy.
Yeah.
Your strikes mean something. Your blocks mean something. And that's what I kind of want to say when I saw it looks kind of like Chivalry. And if anyone's played Chivalry, it's your block button isn't just I just hold this button or trigger and everything in 180 degrees in front of me is blocked. Now you have to put your sword where you think you're going to block it. And that's what I like about Fate Keepers. All the systems of RPGs that I'd like to see, all the good stuff put into one.
Yeah, this is, I did look it up. This is Paraglacial is the developer. This is their first game. This team's first game. I shouldn't say the people on the team have never made a game before, but this team has never made a game before. So pretty fucking impressive for a first game from a studio. And I completely agree. I mean, even the very beginning, the first couple of steps, right? He feels like he's a big, heavy, not necessarily slow moving dude, but like his body has weight. The sword, the great sword he uses, has weight. And there's different weapons. He ends up using an axe at a certain point. Very different combat style. It's not quite as slow. It's got more, I don't want to say fast paced, but there's definitely like, you can tell that there is a weight difference in the weapon between the great sword that he uses, the big 2-handed claymore, and the like single bearded axe that he uses. Not to mention, always love to see dismemberment. He chops a dude's leg completely off at one point. Fucking love that stuff. Always looks good, always adds to like the power fantasy of the game. One thing I will say, actually I'm going to touch on two things. Going back to the inventory, it's funny that you you got like an Elden Ring vibe from the inventory. I got like a Diablo style feel, like where it was very much laid out like the classic RPG of like this gear goes there kind of thing. And I do love that their stats are very fucking cut and dry, very simple. You've got stamina, you've got health, you've got strength. There's no overly complex systems to it, at least at face value, similar to Diablo 4, where shit got way too itemized and this thing will do this, but only conditionally with that. If you do that, like that level of complexity in an RPG is too much. You've gone too far. And it looks like from what they show, what we can see in the stats in this, very cut and dry, very easy to understand, but also a good system that promotes potentially a lot of theory craft building, which is really cool. The biggest issue I have initially with this game, the voice actor's really hard to understand, at least for me. His voice is very old man voice, and I think that's on purpose, but it's to the point where like the very beginning where he's talking with his rat companion, which really fucking cool, they sound so similar that I'm like, God, I wish this had subtitles, because man, that guy's got a gruffy voice that was really hard. So I hope they maybe adjust that a little bit, but who knows?
They're being realistic. Why don't you try talking behind a full plated?
You know what? That's fair,
helm,
right?
That,
that might be part of it. Maybe his voice does sound different if you're not wearing a helmet, or if you have helmets hidden, right? Like, because Crimson Desert did that. They recorded every single one of their dialogue lines clean, and then added filters over the top of it based on if they're inside, if they're in a cave, if they're wearing a helmet, what kind of helmet. So it's entirely possible that this developer did something like that as well. Either way, what I think was like one of the minor touches that really sold the game for me. They showed it off in the initial trailer too, but seeing it in combat was really cool. The weapon coatings. The character has an actual animation to reach down, pull out a coating, and coat his weapon with it. It's not instantly applied. It's not a very canned, quick animation either. It takes a minute. So it makes me wonder, like, can that be interrupted? How does that all look? But it sells the authentic nature of this game and this world that they're building in like, okay, yeah, we're getting ready to fucking poison a dude kind of thing. So cool. Great little touch. They just really nailed, honestly, everything with this demo. And granted, I'm getting myself a little too excited because this is definitely probably a vertical slice. We're seeing a very small cut of the game. Who knows what the rest of the game looks like? But from what they've shown, this looks incredibly promising. And I think it could be probably one of the best RPGs of the generation, hands down. It's got that kind of potential.
Yeah. And, I'll say, for a vertical slice, it looks great. Perfect Dark looked great for a vertical slice.
Did.
And
yep.
We ended up with that. And you mentioned it, and I think it's worth saying, is because everything feels heavy. It feels kind of like being the Doom guy. You're the guy. Let me play the guy.
Yeah. Doom definitely feels more fast paced, obviously, because that's its nature. But yeah, same kind of vibe, right? Same, like you feel the weight and the power of Doom guy. And this seems like you're gonna feel the weight and the power of the Fate Keeper. It's also interesting, they drop a little bit of lore in there. The rat at one point calls you like newborn or something like that. And the character responds with, do you have any idea how old I actually am? So it sounds like your character actually is old, potentially like a revenant raised from the grave or something. There's a lot of really cool lore implications of just that single dialogue exchange. So I'm for it, man. I'm so juiced. The telekinesis stuff, being able to kick and throw people off of ledges into spike walls, just the general setting looks really good. The one thing mixed feelings on is it looks like it has mouse smoothing, look smoothing, which I kind of like for watching, right? Like if I'm going to watch the game, that makes everything look really cinematic and great. But if I'm actually in combat, I want to be able to snap that camera. So I'm curious to see if that's something you can toggle or if that's just the nature of the game, or maybe the guy's sensitivity is just really low and he's just trying to be as smooth as he can. Who knows? I don't really have any other thoughts. You got anything else on Fate Keeper?
No, I mean, like it's so far, for that vertical slice, it's looking good. I hope to see some pretty good amalgamation. Nope, not even gonna try it. Thank you.
Bro, you operated nukes. What?
Doesn't require English speak well.
True story.
Yeah. Why say many word, few word do trick? Yeah, it looks great, and I just hope for some meaty combat. I've been missing my chivalry days.
Yeah, I think this is going to deliver. I'm really curious to see what they do with it. Excited to see more. Hopefully we get a release date that's sometime next year, maybe not too far off. It is built on UE5. UE5 pipeline is very quick. So, you know, if these guys are spun up on UE5, they could potentially push this out. My guess, depending on how far along the project is, this could be out as early as next fall. But talking about RPGs that do not live up to the hype and fall very, very, very short of their predecessors, we briefly mentioned in the Halloween episode that Bloodlines 2, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 came out, and Chris commented, wait, what? Really? Yeah, because nobody fucking cared. It was not good. And I watched a couple of videos on it, and I thought to myself, you know, how bad can it really be? It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. So I'm happy to say I did not pay for the game, but I did happen to acquire the game. Gonna leave it at that. We're gonna talk about just how bad Bloodlines 2 is, and no offense to the Chinese Room, which is the developer of this game, they had no business developing Bloodlines 2. The fact that this game was taken away from its original team and given to the Chinese Room was a horrible call, because Zach, do you know what games the Chinese Room has made? Because they have games in their history.
I mean, if they have games, maybe I've heard of them, or is it like slopware games?
They're good games, but did you play the original Bloodlines, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1?
I did.
Okay, so you remember how that RPG plays, more or less, that it's an RPG, right?
Yeah.
So would you call Amnesia a Machine for Pigs an RPG?
No.
Would you call Everybody's Gone to the Rapture an RPG?
I can't say I've heard of that one.
It's a walking simulator. Very good story, but it's a walking simulator, much like Amnesia.
Okay.
Dear Esther is a walking simulator. Still Wakes the Deep was their last game before this game, which is a phenomenal game. Do not get me wrong. Still Wakes the Deep is beautiful, and it's Eldritch Horror, so it's already got a huge check mark from me. But none of those games set Chinese Room up to be able to handle the massive undertaking that is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This game had so much promise and want and goodwill behind it. And the Chinese Room, I'm sorry, they were not up to the task. In every aspect, every single aspect, this game falls short. And I'm going to start literally at the beginning. I could not play more than an hour of this game because every single aspect failed. First of all, I'm going to start at the beginning, but I'm also not, because the beginning starts with choosing your character, your sex, male or female. And this game is an RPG. So, Zach, what is normally in an RPG when you have a choice between a male and a female character?
I mean, I think we can use I think the best definition of this would probably be cyberpunks. You know, you get it down to the fingernails on there, but we'll keep it basic. Height,
yep,
body shape,
character editing,
hair.
Right? Yeah, you get to edit your character.
Hair, voice, and yeah,
you get to edit your character before the game starts, right?
Usually.
Yeah, not in this one. You choose male or female, go through the entire tutorial, watch the opening credits, and then get to customize your character. What?
All right.
Yeah.
So this is like some Fallout 4 business going on?
Well, even Fallout 4, dude, you go to the mirror, the first thing you do is change your character.
It's true. It's true.
I don't.
Yeah, you go to the mirror.
I was so blown away. I sat there at the menu for a minute. I'm like, I can't think of another fucking RPG I have ever played that you customize your character after the game starts. Not a single one. None of them. And I'm not talking like you just get to change your hair. Full character customization. Face, skin color, hair, hairstyle, hair color, eye style, makeup, all of it. You get to literally recreate your character after you start the game and see your character. What the fuck were they thinking?
I can't think of one. You're right.
So that
Can't think of
aside,
any.
it literally put in my notes, no character customization. That's fucking weird. Played through the beginning and then had to literally go and edit that note and go, okay, apparently after the tutorial. What the fuck? Now let's talk about the tutorial. Let's talk about the start of this game. You wake up as a character who decides to tell a voice in their head, we're going to get to that, a voice in their head, their name is Fire, spelled P-H-Y-R-E, or some insane butchery. Here's the thing. The name makes sense in the context of the game without the game telling you why he chose the name, or she. You walk through a door shortly beginning this dialogue with a voice in your head that has a poster for a band called Fire. Now, what's really fucking stupid is shortly after this conversation, the voice in your head's like, I know who you are. You're the Nomad. But the rest of the game, you continue to go on with the name Fire, apparently. What the why?
Yeah. You're the Fire Nomad?
You're gonna attack, man. You're the Fire Nation. Weird fucking decision. The very beginning of the game, though, you wake up, no voice in your head immediately, and you wake up to security finding you, and you attack them. You're in a derelict, like, why the fuck is this building still standing kind of derelict building? And there's a security guard that you then immediately kill. What the fuck is security doing in a building that literally looks worse than any other drugged in I've ever seen in my life? And I've seen a lot of them doing internet installs and DirecTV installs. I have been in drugged ins where there are needles exposed. I've seen the shit. This is worse than anything I've ever seen, right? By design, obviously. But why the fuck is there security in this building that is clearly condemned? So you kill him, and then you proceed down a hallway where another security guard comes out of the door, has no idea you've killed his buddy, and is just immediately like, yeah, immediately like, you stop, and you punch him and send him flying into the door and kill him immediately. First of all, what? Bro, you're not at all curious who the fuck I am or what I'm doing here? Your immediate thing is stop. What about this building needs security? What?
You could just be another drug addict. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, why is security in a building that is so, like, literally, dude, floors are blown out from this thing. It looks like it's been through a war. It is, it's graphically very beautiful in terms of what they're presenting, but why the fuck is there a security guard in this building?
You know, video games are not, you know, one of the things we say when you play D&D. D&D is not a realism simulator. Sure. It's not a physics simulator, right? Video games, sometimes there are video games that are made based off being physics simulators or realistic, but there should always be a grain of realism or
at least logic to it.
Or logic, exactly. So, right, I like to take a little step back and think of this whole scenario with a little bit of real life logic. Somebody was paying these two guys to, you know, hey, I need you to go watch this absolutely condemned building that has zero value. And if you see anybody in there, immediately kill them, regardless of the, you know, legality of that decision. And it's like, yeah, in real life, that'd be the most nonsensical thing you could ask somebody.
Dude, I've worked security. Do you know what we do when we find somebody where they're not supposed to be? Hey, get the fuck out of here. And if they look like the character that you look like, dude, you're like scarred up, like you've got all kinds of, like, you're wearing like almost like a hospital gown looking thing. If I was a security guard working that building, seeing that person, I'd be like, yo, you all right? Shit, dude, do you need med? Not, hey, you stop, I'm gonna fuck. What?
Yeah.
So, like, I get it, suspension of disbelief, right? I understand, but at the same time, there needs to be some logical reason for these things. And maybe once you go far enough into the game, you find out the logical reason. But I doubt it, because you encounter ghouls later on in this same building, and they are very much obviously like ghouls from being drained by vampires or whatever. And the first two security guards you kill are very clearly human. So there is no way those two are involved in anything that has to do with the masquerade at all. They are literally innocent bystanders that try to kill you, that you then immediately murder. Next.
Amazing.
But dude, I hate a game that has a story that doesn't make sense. Next thing. This whole time, no voice in your head. Nobody's talking to you. You go through this door and you see this brand on your hand, and then all of a sudden you've got this voice in your head. No explanation as to how he got there. He doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't even know who he is. You don't know who you are. It's literally two freaking amnesiacs in a room together going, who are you? Who am I? Who are you? Who am I? It's literally like, it felt to me, I was like, did they just like take the cliff notes of CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 and then make like a stupid, nonsensical version of Johnny Silverhands that has no good reason to exist other than it's the story? Because it feels like they just copied Cyberpunk 2077 and changed it a little bit and took the worst parts of 2077 in terms of the story. Like, at least 2077 has a build up to get to Silverhands, an understanding of what's happening. This just happens to you. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know who I am. You don't know who you are. Fucking, we'll figure it out together, I guess. So this is maybe 10 minutes into the game. And I'm like, all right, okay, yeah, we'll keep going. I'll continue through the game. Guess who shows up next? The police.
Oh,
who
my
called
gosh.
the police? Why did the police get called? The only two people to know I'm here are dead. Neither of them made a call. And why are police responding to a derelict building? What the fuck is happening? So, okay, continue on my way. They're on the first floor. I leave the first floor. I'm like 6 floors up at this point when they finally get inside. I walk to the other side of the 6th floor. There's a cop right there, just so the game can teach me how to sneak and throw objects with telekinesis so I can go around the cop. How the fuck did the cop get up 6 flights of stairs before I crossed a room? Like, the logic of what they built, I understand suspension of disbelief. I do. There's plenty of games that I'm capable of doing that with, 100%. But the level of like, well, we need to do this so we can tell them this. Well, we need to do this so we can teach them this. It's disconnected. So disconnected.
Yep. You're right. Like, the suspension of disbelief is a thing, but when it's so blatantly jarring.
Yeah.
Even for a, dark fantasy game, it's a little tough.
Yeah. So a couple more things and then I'll be done with my rant. We'll move on. But a couple more things quickly. It has this search reticle. So you have your reticle on the screen and it grows and shrinks based on like, it literally hot or colds you to key items in your environment. You're literally playing warm or like hot or cold, right? Like, you're literally looking around the room trying to get this reticle to grow so you can highlight whatever object or important lore or whatever thing you need to interact with. And the system works through the walls. So there is a moment in time where I'm trying to find something and I'm like looking at the wall and my reticle keeps growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking. And I'm like, what the fuck? I end up saying, all right, fuck it. Go into the next room. Oh, it's on this side of the wall. Okay, great system. Fantastic. Really good. Furious at this point. Furious. I'm like, okay, get through the opening, see the title screen. Cool. We're in the room. We're on the trail for voice in my head. We're going to find his body, figure out why he's in my head. Okay, cool. We're going to do this. We're going to figure this out. I'm in Seattle. It's Christmas time. This is cool. I want to be in Seattle. Holy shit. I'm right in like Pioneer Square. There's the totem. Like, I've been to Seattle enough times that like, yeah, this is part of the city. I know where I'm at. The game immediately tells you, as soon as you go back out to the streets and you start going on your first mission, the game immediately tells you like, oh, we got to make sure we don't draw attention to ourselves. We don't want to break the masquerade. For those of you who don't know, the masquerade is the idea of vampires showing the world that vampires don't exist. It's the masquerade. They're hiding their nature. So they're very specific. You're talking to this voice in your head and he's like, we got to make sure we don't break the masquerade and da 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 da. And I'm following this trail of like where he's trying to lead me with his memory or whatever. And it wants me to climb up a pipe, like a down pipe from a building, with 3 people standing right next to it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to break the masquerade. Like, I'm not going to just jump and climb up this shit like fucking Spider-Man. So I'm going to go around the building. No, you can't get up to where you need to go without going up that pipe. Literally not 30 seconds after he says, we need to make sure we don't break the masquerade, hey, climb up this pipe right in front of these 3 NPCs that are going to watch you. What the fuck?
Sounds like the storyboard and thought process was written by AI.
Just something. And then, I mean, I guess my final gripe is the combat feels boring. It's literally click the mouse button, hold the mouse button, click the mouse button, hold the mouse button. And I got to a point where I got in a fight and I was punching people. And I was like, this just isn't it.
It's not worth the time.
Closed it down, uninstalled, deleted. It is as disappointing as the day before. Hands down.
Yeah. That's saying something.
Yeah. I don't know who this game is for, but it is not for fans of Bloodlines. Tell you that. Dude, I would rather go play Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, which is a battle royale third-person vampire shooter in Prague, which is so enjoyable, than play Bloodlines 2. And it is absolutely infuriating that this game carries the Bloodlines 2 name and just completely disrespects its origin. What's even more infuriating is when this game was supposed to release last year, they postponed it to make it better, which means this is the best version that this game has ever been, and it is bad. Like 2 out of 10 bad.
Man.
Yeah.
Look, hey, I saw the mostly negative reviews that it was at some point, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
They're rough,
right. They're right. I went into this expecting it to be bad, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play it. I'm going to enjoy the story. I've heard the story is fun. I've heard the dialogue is good. And the dialogue is good. The voice actors do a good job. The script sucks. The direction sucks. But the voice actors do a good job. And when your game literally only has that to hang its hat on, no.
Nope.
Hard pass. So I don't know who that's for, but it sure as hell isn't winning any awards this year.
Yeah, I don't even think we could see it's like part of me is like, like a redemption arc. Nah, that's too far gone. Scrap it.
Honestly, Anthem is sunsetting next year. This should probably sunset with it. You know what? This should be the opposite because it's vampires. This needs to walk into the sunlight. This needs to wake up bright and early, get its coffee, watch the sun come up, and just burn on the porch because god damn, it's bad. It's ET level bad.
Oh boy.
It needs to be erased and forgotten. And just
when you said the day before, that's all you had to say.
Yeah, it is absolutely trash for the trash gods. I was so disappointed. I finally got to play a game in like accurate level of, Seattle, which was really cool, walking out of that building and being like, oh shit, I'm right here at Pioneer Square. This is cool. There's the bar that I went to over there, and like Pike's Place is right up the, all that kind of shit. The map is also incredibly small. It just very clearly, the Chinese room just had no business making this game. They were not up to the challenge of this game, and that is really sad. It was really sad. So
it's disappointing.
Yep. Well, let's move on to our kind of main big topic that you get to talk mostly about, and I get to shut the fuck up. The Game Awards. They announced their nominations, and one game is mysteriously missing. It's a little controversial. So Zach, why don't you tell us about it?
All right. So for best debut indie games, give you a list of what to expect in the indie game section and why it matters.
Yep.
There's 2 sections to it, and that's Game Awards for best indie game and best debut indie game. Clear Obscure Expedition 33 is an indie game. It's made by a very small team, and not only that, I think it's actually a breakout. That's their best debut indie game. But then you have your new developers, so like your Stardew Valleys, your Balatros, right? These were all crazy hit games. So one of the games that came out in 2025, sorry, I'm a little expositioning here, is Mega Bonk. For those who don't know what Mega Bonk is, It's effectively, if you've played Risk of Rain 2, which is a roguelike third-person shooter bullet hell game,
Yeah.
I guess technically. It's multiplayer. It is a blast. I enjoy it. And you played Vampire Survivors, and you mush them together. So you have a 3D world, but unlike Risk of Rain 2, you don't really shoot or fire your weapon. It all happens automatically like Vampire Survivors. And it's a roguelite. As you play the game, you get better stuff. There's a lot of different characters that do different things like Vampire Survivors. It is an insanely fun game if you're just trying to waste some time, i.e. a 3D Vampire Survivors.
Yep.
So they were in the best debut indie game list, and the developer requested to be pulled, or to pull their nomination, which I will give it to the developer. That's, I don't want to say moral thing to do, but that shows the morals of the developer. They said, I'm withdrawing. The category is best debut indie game, and they actually developed games under a different studio name. So it's not their debut indie game. Yeah. Here is the interesting part, and this is what I think is really interesting. Do you know who, and I know I've talked about it a lot, but do you know who developed Balatro by chance?
You have mentioned his name. I know he was a solo developer out of Canada. I know you've said his name before again, but it escapes me right now.
The developer's name is Local Thunk.
That's what it was.
We don't know what he looks like or who he is, right? That's their name. You know, we know Stardew Valley is Concerned Ape, but there is a name and a person associated with it. Like, we know who is that. His name escapes me right now. I'm not going to spend the time to Google it, but like, we know that developer. And the developer Megabonk is also kind of like Local Thunk. He goes by a name, or he or she, they, whoever goes by name, and their name is Vedinad. That the only credit history they have is Megabonk. So we don't actually know what games that they've developed before, if they even were a debut indie game. Maybe they could have developed bloatware. They could have been a developer on the day before, for all we know. You know, they could have been part of a team that came out with, you know, a mega hit, and we would have never have known. And this is just their side project. But it's actually surprising to see somebody come out with, because I would say Megabonk is a heavy hitter for a contender for best debut indie game if Absolutely. They didn't pull it. Like, yeah, it's a great game.
There's a lot more categories than there used to be. It's kind of wild. Is. Yeah, like I think just a couple of years ago there was like 5 categories. Now I'm looking at this. You've got Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design, Best Performance, Innovative Accessibility, Innovations in Accessibility, Games for Impact, Best Ongoing, Best Community Support, Best Independent Game, Best Debut Indie Game, Best Mobile Game, Best VR AR Game, Best Action Game, Best Adventure Game, Best RPG, Best Fighter, Best Family, Best Sims, Best Sports, Best Multiplayer, Best Adaptation. Most Anticipated Game. So a game that's not even out yet is getting an award at the Game of the Year Awards. Okay. Content Creator of the Year Award.
I will say a very, very quick side plug of a game that is in the debut indie game list. I already talked about Clear Obscure Expedition 33, which everyone knows is kind of a heavy hitter. The game's insane.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is the game in there real quick. It's called Blueprints. It's a roguelite. I think I mentioned it before, but it's a roguelite unlike any other you've ever played. Extremely chill. It's a fantastic game if you love solving puzzles. And when I say solving puzzles, I mean it. Puzzles in like a good way, not like, hey, do this, you know, expert level Sudoku in 30 seconds or less. It's straight up, they're like story puzzles.
Okay.
So if you're looking for a new story roguelike game that you enjoy puzzles, Blueprints is a phenomenal game. And not to throw anyone off or dissuade them, but no joke, you will need a notebook. It's that crazy of a game. Like, you absolutely, the game even tells you in the beginning via a note that you find, hey, you should really have a notebook for this game, and you should really write down every little thing that you see. And it's, dude, every new day in that game is just like, start connecting the dots. I'm like Charlie from It's Always Sunny with Pepe La Silva going on. Like, yeah, the whole time I'm like, this whole time that meant something. phenomenal.
It's if you are the lore keeper of your D&D group, you will love this game, is what it sounds like. If you're the guy that's taking notes or girl that's taking notes, blueprints. It looks just looking at it on Steam, it reminds me a lot of Myst. It seems like it's very much in that vein of like story, first person, puzzle solving game, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Love to see those.
And it's a very, very chill game to play. It's a roguelite, so you're going to restart your day all the time. That's a cornerstone of the game. But at no point, you don't feel like you're playing Majora's Mask here, where you're like, I only have 36 minutes left to do this one thing. You know, you could just like, oh, well, I guess I'll just start again. And you just keep going, and time's a vortex.
Yeah, definitely sounds cool. I mean, personally, Donkey Kong Bonanza getting announced or a vote for Game of the Year is such a no. I'm sorry.
I didn't even know that game came out. It was like, oh, Nintendo slid them, you know, $100,000 of funding.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, you're gonna put our name in for this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at this list, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Clair Obscur is a great game. Everybody raves about how great it is. I get it. It's phenomenal. I haven't personally played it, so I can't say. But seeing Hades 2 on this list too, I get that it came out of early access, and so it's finally officially released. That game came out a couple years ago, and it was dog shit from pretty much everybody that I talked to. They hated Hades 2. So it's great to see that it's finally good and good enough to get nominated. But looking at this list, there's 2 AAA games in the Game of the Year section, which it was a big deal when we had 1 indie game nominated for Game of the Year. Now the majority of these are indie games. If that doesn't tell you there's a shift in the industry, I mean, I don't know what will, right? Like, I think there's other games that probably were more deserving than Hades 2 or Donkey Kong Bonanza, but it has been confirmed time and time again that pretty much the Game of the Year award is bought and paid for. So don't be surprised if Donkey Kong wins, despite the fans wanting probably Clair Obscur to win. That's my guess. Because
it's like if Donkey Kong Bonanza wins Game of the Year award, it's like money laundering. It's like the Long John Silvers of video games. How many people have you met in your day-to-day life, let's say within a rough estimate, 10 years, that have ever said, oh, I went to Long John Silver's the other night? When's the last time you've been to a Long John Silver's?
Fucking never.
Right? When's the last time you've heard anyone say anything about a Donkey Kong game?
Right. Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2 for the SNES. That's it.
There you go. That's it.
I am personally a little disappointed that Split Fiction didn't make the Game of the Year awards, because so much more deserving than either Hades 2 or Donkey Kong for one simple reason. How the fuck did that game get built? Because seriously, the pitch of the game, your elevator pitch, this is your pitch. This is the pitch he threw at EA. I'm going to make a game that combines fantasy and sci-fi and makes it good. Never, ever in media history has there been a blend of fantasy and sci-fi so perfect as Split Fiction. It is, there's no words. If you haven't played the game, I get it. It's a 2-player only game, but no one in their right fucking mind would be like, yeah, that's a good idea. No, you don't blend fantasy and sci-fi. You don't do it. Apparently you do. You do it really fucking well. So
yeah, I'm trying to think. I was like, man, the last time I played a game that was fantasy and sci-fi combined was Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yeah, and that was a really good game, but that didn't really blend fantasy and sci-fi. You had like sci-fi sections and fantasy sections.
Yeah,
they overlap in really weird, crazy ways. Ghost of Yotai only being nominated for Best Game Direction too is really wild to me. I was sure that was going to get nominated for Game of the Year, so I'm a little blown away by the candidates this year. At the same time, I don't really give a shit because the Game Awards don't mean anything to me.
Yeah, right.
You know, they're great for the industry and they're fun to watch. I watch them for the game trailers. I don't care about the awards. I actually usually fast forward through the awards because that's not why I'm here. That's not what I'm going to talk about. So
I want to see what's coming up. You know?
Exactly. Like, show me what's next, right? So I hope Claire Obscure wins. From everything I have heard, the game absolutely deserves it. But Kojima also released Death Stranding 2, and there's a huge following around that. And honestly, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, haven't played it yet, other than when I played it at PAX with Toby. Really cool PR guy. I think that deserves a win too. So honestly, if it's one of those three, I think it's fair. Silksong also broke the internet, so I don't know. It's a hard year. It's going to be interesting to see who wins.
Who cares what the internet says when you're Nintendo and you can spend millions of dollars? And
facts.
If you say anything bad, we'll send our lawyers after you.
Facts. If you what was it? If you use a battle system where you summon monsters to fight, we'll sue you for copyright infringement. Well, that is kind of our main topics for the night. We're going to hit some quickfire news, and then we're going to head over to Patreon. So, first on the docket for quickfire news, Duskpunk came out. I'm going to touch on this very quickly. I got an embargoed copy. They gave me a review code, and I literally sent them a feedback email saying, please do not release this game. If you listened to previous episodes, you'll know this is a game I was personally very excited for, that I personally played the demo for, that I personally recommended. It's rough right now. I don't know if it's been changed, but Clockwork Bird is a single solo dev, and that is difficult, plain and simple. And balancing a game like this is hard. Right now, again, I don't know if it's been updated. I haven't seen an update pop up. I haven't gotten any information that it has been updated. But once you get outside of the beginning of the game, what's playable in the demo, the game literally falls apart. And I mean in the worst possible way. It forces you to die. There's probably ways around that. I played, again, the veteran, so sneaking stealth was not my thing. The game very heavily relies on that. And then the aspects of the game where it feels like you should be better at things that are skirmish related, I constantly got my ass kicked. There were 2 fights in particular where I had almost max in my skirmish skill, my fighting skill, and I lost both of them without like a dice roll. It just narratively forced me to lose. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? That's not okay. Like, I have a 4 out of 5 in this stat. There's no chance in hell I should just outright lose. That's nonsense. Beyond that, there's a certain point in the game where the game literally takes away your ability to make money. It takes away the ability to beg on the streets. It takes away the ability to fight in prize fights at the end of the night. It takes away the ability to work in the factory. So you literally can't get money, which means you're, at least for the soldier, constantly building stress that you can't reduce because you can't buy your drug to lower your stress. You can't pay to reduce your wanted level. And once your wanted level hits 100%, you gain more stress. And so the way the game functions is once you hit a break point, quote unquote, which is when one of your stats breaks and it reduces its rolling capabilities, basically. Once you've done that for 4 of the, I think 5 or 6 stats, you lose the game. So because you can't get money, you can't get medicine, you can't buy off you literally get forced into a no-win scenario. So I wrote the developer, I'm like, dude, this is not okay. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. If you release this game, you're going to get a lot of bad publicity on it. You will. The drug, by the way, that you can get that helps reduce your stress is 50 grot, which is their money, which is incredibly expensive considering that your best option for making money early game is winning prize fights, and that pays 10. And you have 4 chances a night to win a prize fight. And if you don't have a high skirmish factor, you're not winning those prize fights. Your stress builds up by 4 or 5 each night. Like it's really unbalanced after he takes away your ability to make money. The story is so fucking enthralling though that I'm pissed off because I'm like, dude, I want to play your fucking story. It's so good, but you made this literally impossible. And then there's other stuff that's just bugged. There's a quest that I just flat out couldn't do. It's a mess. And I really hate to say that, but it's a mess. Don't get Duskpunk right now. If you're interested in the game, play the demo and just give it a couple of months, because he is a solo dev. He did write me back specifically saying like, hey, you're not the only one that's been saying this from the people we've sent review codes. I'm making these changes, but I'm only one person. And I can resonate with that, right? Like, we're a team here at CoinDrop, but ultimately I do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to all things CoinDrop. It's my brand, it's my goal, it's my vision. I have to carry that weight. And while Zach and Chris help where they can, it's still on me to make all the stuff happen. So hopefully Duskpunk will get better. Hopefully there will be an update. There might have already been an update by the time this episode comes out. I haven't seen anything on the Steam page to indicate that he's made any changes. But until that happens, I would not recommend this game.
It is unfortunate. I remember talking about this game.
Yeah. I was very disappointed. Almost heartbroken, actually, because I was like, dude, you had so much potential with this. And you know, everybody, the reviews that are on Steam, I'm questioning whether the people played through the whole fucking game or not, because some of the quotes are like, oh, it's one of the best story games, and I'm like, not really. It does look, I actually just pulled up the Steam page, it does look like he did a small update, 0.01 and 0.02 recently, so I haven't read those, but a patch has come out as of looking at this right now. So maybe he's addressed some of those issues. I still would probably chill on this game until next couple of patches, just to give it some time to cook, because I think he pushed it out a little bit too early. Well, speaking of more news that I'm going to press X to doubt on, Capcom says Resident Evil Requiem won't suffer on PC the way Monster Hunter Wilds did. I'll believe it when I see it, is all I'm going to say there, because the only games that I have seen in recent years that don't suffer on PC, this is going to blow developers' minds, are the games we get to play before they release so we can give you feedback. Those are the only games that seem to come out on PC and are in a good state. So maybe, even if you're playing Resident Evil and it's a story game and you don't want to spoil a story, maybe you should release the first chapter so your audience who want to buy the game can test it to make sure the game works.
Yeah, but, you know, I've sounded like a sucker for them before. You know, we always end up talking about a couple game companies when we say our parting notes. But Battlefield 6, again, did it right. Came out with a couple closed beta weekend or open beta weekends. They did a ton of EA Labs testing.
Yep.
Somehow I got breezed past every single time, but I know that the windows were always open and I constantly would apply. And they're like, oh, you want to come to Los Angeles and test? Like, no, I don't want to go to Los Angeles and test. They did it right. Conversely, we have Wilds that came out. I loved Wilds, and I spent a solid week of my time trying to get Wilds to work when I built my PC.
Yeah.
I was ripping my hair out as this was before I had my 5080. I had a 5070 Ti, which still brand new, and it just would not work. It was the most unoptimized, and I love Monster Hunter, but it was just the most unoptimized crap ever. Like how does Capcom, who normally wins, normally it pulls out some W's, it was just like, wow, I can't even play Wilds, this game that I've been looking to forever. Like, oh, here's the benchmark software that you can run beforehand, and all that did, that benchmark for all of us, was show us how screwed we were going to be when the game came out in a week. I was like, oh yeah, let's run the benchmark software. And it was like, cool, I'm pulling 40 FPS at best on medium settings on a 5070 Ti. In what world?
Unacceptable.
And I said before, even on the 5080, I was like messing with every setting to get at a maximum like 90. And I was like, you know, the cutscenes look great, I'll tell them that. But it's like, the world was, you know, it looked great when it worked, but just getting it to work there was nuts because they didn't play test anything. And it's like, yeah, Resident Evil, it's a single player game, but if you're going to release on PC, not everyone's going to have the most cut and dry basic PC that they're like, yep, we tested on that. And you're like, well, what about every other graphics card and motherboard combination and RAM? And
it's impossible, right? It's impossible to optimize for everything this day and age. There's way too many different combinations, but the goal has shifted from being 80% optimized to 20% unoptimized, and has become 20% optimized, 80% unoptimized with most games. And literally before Wilds came out, I remember talking with my D&D group like, oh yeah, Capcom always launches good products. When's the last time Capcom launched a bad product? When's the last time they launched a game that didn't function well? Oof, ate those words real quick. But you know, I don't doubt that Resident Evil Requiem will run great on consoles. I will not be buying it day one on PC. And looking at Monster Hunter Wilds, they still are sitting at mixed reviews with recent reviews as well as overall. 74,000 reviews on Steam overall with mixed reviews. Recent reviews, 2,300 current reviews sitting at mixed. So I would love to play it, but I think I'm going to just go back to Worlds and keep playing Worlds a little bit longer.
Yeah, like I have pretty much as top of the line as you get. I could have a 5090, I guess. I don't have a 5090. I have a 5080.
It's still, that's
and it's still,
speaking wise, that you're getting maybe 12 to 20% more power out of the 5090. It's not going to be a huge jump. There's no reason you should need that.
And also, I don't think I live in an old house. I don't think my house's main breaker can handle the.
Yeah, you would burn your house down with that thing too. You'd cook your leg off, and your house would burn down. Well, moving on, Soulframe from Digital Extremes, the creators of Warframe, their Prelude update number 12 is coming out on the 25th of November. And from the email I received, it sounds like it's going to be open to anybody who wants to apply and play. Currently, if you want to get into Soulframe, you have to go and apply, and you might get sent an access code. See, another company doing it right, letting their players in to play and test their game. Wild, I know. So if you like Warframe, if you haven't checked out Soulframe, it's very different. Do not assume that this game is anything like Warframe, because it very much isn't, other than it's the same company making it. This is a fantasy-based RPG that is way more grounded than the Space Ninjas of Warframe. But it's going into its 12th Prelude update, which is going to have a special armor set that's actually inspired by some of the frames from Warframe, which sounds really cool. Honestly, this is a project I've watched off and on for a while now. I'm really hoping it is open to the public with this next update on the 25th, because I want to play it. I've wanted to play it since they showed it off at TennoCon 6 years ago, I think it was. So got that to look forward to if you're a fan of what Digital Extremes does. Again, check out some videos on it. It is very different than Warframe. And moving on to our penultimate announcement here, Hellraiser Revival, which if you're watching this on YouTube, you're probably seeing a blurry mess because, boy, I cannot show that trailer, has just launched their first gameplay trailer of the game, and it looks graphically disturbingly beautiful. It is, if you're a fan of Hellraiser, blood, guts, and sex, orgies, disemboweling people, all kinds of fun stuff. Like, yeah, it's graphic. It is not for the children. So, looks really cool. Finally, somebody is taking a franchise and not making a 4v1 asymmetric horror game. They're making a story-based linear FPS stealth survival horror game, which is exactly what we should have in Hellraiser. And of course it's Saber Interactive doing it, because those people have their fucking fingers on the pulse of all great things right now. So looking forward to it. Pinhead's terrifying, and the world, it reminds me, gameplay wise, it reminds me a lot of Condemned. I don't know if you remember Condemned.
Oh, I remember Condemned.
Yeah, that was the game Condemned that taught me I was afraid of mannequins. So
right.
Yeah, it looks a lot like that same kind of vibe. So I am hella interested. Yeah, I want to play the fuck out of it. Yep,
it's visceral, I think is the word I want to use there.
Yeah, I think one of the very first scenes is you're naked, strapped to a chair with a nail through your hand, and you see full dong as you rip the nail out of your hand. So it is very much that blend of nudity, violence, and sex. And if that's not your thing, maybe skip this one. But if you're interested in a very, very wild side of BDSM, Clive Barker has a pretty fucked up brain. So just leave it at that.
Yeah, this is peak Clive Barker if I've ever seen it.
That's the truth. Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm excited. And the excitement doesn't end there. A game that I've been excited for almost a decade now is finally coming to early access. Ashes of Creation, an MMO we have followed since it was announced on Kickstarter in 2016. CoinDrop has talked about this game. Well, it's finally coming to early access on Steam next month. So hell yes to that. Cannot fucking wait. And if you come over to Patreon, Zach has played. He actually bought into the alpha testing phase, and he's going to tell us his experience with the game. Now, I will caveat this, and Zach, you should caveat this as well. This is based off of what he played in alpha testing. Whether that's good or bad, we're going to find out over on Patreon. But hopefully, this game lives up to the hype. Just to give a quick overview, Ashes of Creation is picking up literally from the ashes of EverQuest Next, where that game fell apart, and they are pushing the MMO genre forward in a way that it has desperately needed for over 2 decades. They are doing things that are new, that have never been done before, and I cannot fucking wait to see how it plays out. We're talking players will develop the server. You don't build it, your actions build it. Things you do in a town will result in how the town shapes, how it grows, whether it becomes a metropolis, whether it becomes a small city, whether it becomes a town, whether it gets wiped off the face of the planet for every other player playing the game. There is a huge potential with this game, and I cannot wait for early access. So if you want to hear more about that, head over to patreon.com/CoinDropPod. $3 a month. You can support us there. And here's Zach's thoughts on the games and my hopes for it, as well as the upcoming games for the next 2-ish weeks. We've got a lot to talk about. So thank you again for listening and supporting. And if you're new here, hope you enjoyed the content. We'll see you next time. Zach, any final thoughts before we take off to the Patreon?
Hey, you know, sometimes in game development, they go by the live and die motto of first time quality eventually, maybe?
Yep.
Unless you're Masquerade 2, you know,
Ugh.
0 quality forever.
I wish I could erase that game from my mind. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Have a great night.